All right. As I mentioned, if you are not familiar with how we score it, each of our top two picks on the six pack are worth 2 points each. Our third one is worth a point. Sweeping all three is worth another point. And the total that we give out in the next segment is also worth a point. So, Stuck, with your 7 point week, you got a touchdown on me. I just got a field goal. You've cut it to 45-38, so you're back in it. Where are you going with pick number one for week 13?
Yeah, by the way, if the Ravens settled for a field goal last week, which I wish they did, late, and then under would have came in, and
Yeah.
The Jags would have still covered for me, and we would have been 9, or like if you include the teasers, all the main picks, we would have been undefeated on the week. So close. So
It happens.
Let's keep it rolling this week. So we were 5-0-1 on the six pack last week. I don't know if we've ever gotten the double sweep, so we're close.
Yeah, we're gunning for it, man. And we're really hitting our stride. I mean, especially, I give you a lot of credit for being able to do that. The sweep, short week, you and I both, I don't think slept leading up to the pod. Thanksgiving, a lot of stuff going on. Probably a third of our normal prep. So, shouts to you, and let's keep it rolling.
Well, we did the college one today too, so I haven't slept. So maybe we keep the good juju going. For my first pick of the Week 13 NFL Sunday six pack presented by FanDuel, I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs -2.5 at the Cincinnati Bengals. This one is really simple for me. I had this spot circled before the season started. This is similar to like the Bills when they go to the Chiefs after they lose in the playoffs. This is double revenge for Kansas City. And I said to myself earlier this year, before the season started, when I mark out my spot, I said, I just want the Chiefs under 3. Well, we got it here. Mainly because the Bengals, I think, won at Tennessee. Maybe you would have saw 3 here if they had lost that game. But I just need Mahomes to win this game, by the way. Historically, that's a really good bet. He's 17-5-1 against the spread as an underdog or favorite of 3 or less. He's won 26 straight games in November and December. And look, the Bengals also want to win this game, right? They just like the Chiefs. I do think that the Chiefs have been waiting a little bit more for this after all the smack that the Bengals D-backs talked after the game. But the reason why I have this spot circled is, well, the Bengals, they could have easily lost both games last year. The Chiefs blew double-digit leads in the second half in each. Mahomes makes a brain fart at the end of the first half in the playoff game. Then the Bengals make this defensive change, and they just dropped 8. Mahomes was lost. And then in the regular season game, they got all these penalties at the end. They were able to run the clock, bleed the clock all the way down and win at the buzzer. But the Chiefs have been, I can almost promise you, I talk about this a lot of weeks, why their games go under at home a lot, why they're not great at covering as a favorite at home, is they kind of they don't show a lot, and they're just like, all right, let's save some stuff for the more important games. And against, this, all right, let's drop everyone back. Mahomes, I think they have a lot up their sleeve here. And they played the Rams last week, who were starting Bryce Perkins. And the Bengals had a game that I think would have ruined their playoff chances had they had lost it, given their schedule down the stretch. They had to prepare all week for the Titans. I can almost guarantee you, not only have the Chiefs been kind of, spent some of the offseason game planning for some of the looks the Bengals gave them, I can guarantee you the week leading up to the Rams game, that staff spent some time on this particular game. Big coaching mismatch here. Massive, massive revenge game. And I think you're going to see the Chiefs as the team that makes those big adjustments. Jamar Chase looks like he'll go. I don't know if he'll be 100% healthy, but I just need Mahomes to win this game. He's been salivating at this chance. I've been salivating at the spot. I just want it under a field goal. It's that simple. Give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, talked about how these elite teams aren't really winning with margin. Well, now you're getting Patrick Mahomes under a field goal in this spot. So I can't argue with it. And you're right. I think, this is a revenge spot for the Chiefs in a big way. They're going to come out very motivated here. And a lot of what's been going wrong with the Chiefs, it's just been Patrick Mahomes doing it. It's kind of like Josh Allen, except I don't think it's not injury related, but just dumb plays in the red zone, things that are correctable. And the Chiefs, they look pretty healthy aside. I think Tony's probably gonna miss. Juju has an illness, but I think he'll go. So yeah.
Yeah, I just think
Chiefs
you're
are
going to see
looking like the
a
side.
completely buttoned up Chiefs effort, and then you're going to see some unreal play calling and game scripting, and yeah, I'm trusting Patty to get this win.
For my first pick and the second overall of the Week 13 Sunday six pack, I am going with the Tennessee Titans plus 5.5 at the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think we talked about this last week, but I've been waiting for a spot to like this to back the Titans, and I'm doing it against the Eagles because the Titans can do two things well. They can run and they can stop the run. And that's what you have to do to hang with this Eagles team. Titans are number one in run defense DVOA, and that's going to make the Eagles have to throw the ball a little more. That's when they kind of it gets kind of choppy for them on offense. And on the other side, that Eagles run defense has still been vulnerable. And Derrick Henry, love him in this spot, and love Rabel in these spots as well. 21-7 against the spread in his career when he's an underdog by a field goal or more. Titans look like they're going to get center Ben Jones back, practiced in full on Wednesday. So that looks good. I think Simmons will go as well. He didn't practice Wednesday, but I think that was more maintenance. So Titans.
He doesn't practice Saturday sometimes and play. So
yeah,
he's gonna play.
So the Titans are looking pretty healthy. I mean, Eagles are healthy too. But the Titans, they're a deep team, and when they're healthy, they're a team that they're going to be a live dog in this spot. And you look at the Eagles, and I mentioned these elite teams kind of struggling. It gets to that point in the season. You've seen everything they've done on tape. It's got, war of attrition here. They're without Goddard and things like that. But first 7 games, plus 11 average point differential. Last 4 games, plus 2.3. So it's been almost cutting fifths in terms of the Eagles. They're still getting it done for the most part, but everything's within a score now. And all these games could go either way. And if I want any team in a one-score game, it's the Titans, especially after last week when they blow a chance to potentially come back on a boneheaded special teams play. Vrabel is going to light into his guys and have them really coming out motivated this week. And this is his kind of spot. It's, hovering by 7.7 points per game on average when he's a dog of a field goal or more. I mean, it's like the Tomlin, except he covers by more margin. The record is kind of similar, but man, love these spots. Give me the Titans plus 5.5.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wish we were getting. I was waiting for 7, and then it just
not gonna happen. I got it
away from me.
I got it early in the week. What did I get it at? I think it was 6.5. Yeah, so at least if it goes to overtime, I'm covered.
Yeah, it's in a dead range now. So I always bring this up when we take lines 5.5. Just wait. I'm gonna wait to see where this goes. See if there's some sharp money that comes to the Eagles. Like you said, the Eagles are healthy, but yeah, I think Goddard's a big loss, specifically in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was CJ Gardner-Johnson. I know the rookie.
Yeah, that's a big one
rookie
too.
Reed Blankenship looked okay, but that's a drop off. And then they're missing their good slot corner in Avonte Maddox. And then the run D still isn't the same without Jordan Davis. And I think that's big here, especially if Ben Jones is back going up against Derrick Henry. And the Eagles just aren't playing crisp ball right now. They got off to that such hot start. They're also still plus 13 in turnover margin, which leads the NFL by about, I think, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So there's a potential regression coming there. And yeah, this is just a classic Vrabel spot. And so I agree with you. And look, the Eagles run a unique offense and they get off to fast starts, but so does Tennessee. They're always good in the scripted portions. So I think they can match them early. And then one thing you can count on with Vrabel is he always will have a good defensive game plan.
Yes.
And so he'll have a good defensive game plan here for a unique offense, which is really important. You can't just come out and run your base stuff. So yeah, I like the Titans here. And another thing worth mentioning is, which will segue into my second pick, is this the difference in the AFC versus NFC, man, is just it gets bigger by the day. I've been watching the Bucks losing the Browns, just the latest example. But AFC dogs against the NFC this year are 14-7 against the spread. And I think that just the AFC this year is so much stronger from top to bottom.
Except Denver.
What's that?
Except Denver.
Except Denver, yeah. I mean, if you remove Denver and like the Texans, then it's even stronger. So which brings me to my second pick and the third overall of the Week 13 Sunday six pack. I am going with the New York Football Jets +3 at the Minnesota Vikings. By the way, I'm happy. The main thing, I swept last week, but I'm just happy I didn't have to answer to you for losing money on Zach Wilson.
Man. That could have gone
ended
so
up
crazy.
Working out perfectly.
Yeah, it got off to a weird start too, because the Bears are actually up at one point, and then the Jets did that weird.
Well, the Bears PR team's like fucking Peterman starting, and then
right,
and then he didn't. Dude. I was like, what the hell? I see Renzo pop up. They're like Simeon. I'm like, these announcers have the quarterback's name wrong.
Right,
and then I look into it, and I'm like, no, he actually is starting. But Mike White, what did he do last week? He just was very efficient, complete all the passes that Zach Wilson couldn't. Had a really strong game. That was the missing piece on the Jets. Why I wouldn't back the Jets all year because of the quarterback. Well, now I'm backing them back-to-back weeks because Zach Wilson is out of there. Kind of similar to you with Wentz.
Yes.
And look, I think the Vikings are they got that big win over New England, but it was another like fluky win. I mentioned this earlier. Kick return for a touchdown, you get a beneficial call, and it's like their ninth single-digit win of the season. And if you look, like, number one, they are sitting in prime position in their division. The Eagles kind of went into like this little lull. This is who the Vikings have left. They host the Jets. Then they got the Lions, the Colts, the Giants, the Packers, and the Bears. That's their remaining schedule. So I think you could stay. They might be a little flat here after that New England win. But more importantly, I think that the Jets will get pressure on Cousins, who, by the way, he's just not. He's having a really good year, but over the last couple of years, he's just not that consistent. It'll be great game and then game, great game, game. After a straight up win since 2017, he's 16-29-2 against the spread. But Jets can get pressure without blitzing. Like their secondary. I also like just the mojo of this team, right? They made the quarterback change last week. Everything worked out. They're going to come into this game fired up, better special teams, better defense. And now they have Mike White, who's going up against another weak defense in the NFC North that he can attack with short passes. The Vikings really struggle to defend short passes. They're 31st in the NFL in that department. And last week, Mike White, 65%, which is a really high percentage of his passes were considered short. So I think that the Jets can march down the field here. They'll hit some explosives here and there, but their defense will cause Cousins some problems. The Vikings also have some one-score regression, some turnover regression coming their way. This is, and like I mentioned, I think this is just kind of a feel thing. I think the Vikings might go in like just this little like lull here where they're sitting in the NFC. And this is a massive game for the Jets. Like, think about that. Like the Jets, if they lose this game, it's like the AFC is crazy. Like they're 7-5. If they lose this game, like their playoff percentage goes from like, right now it's probably like 60% to like 30. Like you can't lose games in the AFC, especially in that division. So I think you get a fully focused Jets team and with Mike White at the helm. And I think they made the right decision last week, benching Zach Wilson, and they carry that momentum over to this week and they get the outright win at Minnesota. And maybe the 3, I would have loved 3.5. That's not coming here, but the Vikings are the worst kicking game in the NFL this year. So missed extra points are happening every week. That could happen here too. You could lose this game by 2 or 1. Their kicking has been atrocious. But, give me the Jets, who have been really reliable on the road this year. And I don't have Zach Wilson. I got my guy Mike White. Let's ride.
Yeah, I'll be on the Jets as well. I love this pick. I think perception of these two teams, because the Vikings have the great record, which, credit to them. That was what their fans have been waiting for after they spent the last, 4 or 5 seasons just losing close games. So props to the Vikings. But you look at this team on paper, and they're 22nd in DVOA, 20th on offense, 23rd on defense, and 20th in special teams. The Jets are 9th in
And that
overall.
doesn't account for like, hey, we played the Dolphins, who are really highly rated, with their 3rd string quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. Because it does schedule adjust, but yeah,
but doesn't adjust for
it
injuries.
can't.
Like that's
Yeah,
basically like
right.
you played the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson were like a bottom 10 team.
Exactly. So the Jets are ninth in overall DVOA. So that's better than Minnesota by
With Zach Wilson as their
right.
quarterback.
And they're better. So that's better by 13 spots overall. They're better on offense. They are 18th. Minnesota's 20th. And that's with Zach Wilson and not Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, or Dalvin Cook, or Christian Darrisaw. And they're fourth on defense compared to the Vikings 23rd. It's 19 spots better. We know that. And they're also better on special teams. The Jets are better across the board than than the Minnesota Vikings. And some people may think that's crazy because the Vikings are what, 9-2 now. But I remember I was talking about this Jets team like week 1 or 2. I was like, this roster's scary if they could just figure out the quarterback situation. Like this is a squad here. So I love it. Wish I had gotten the 3.5, but didn't. But yeah, I'll be honest too, for the exact same reasons. I think Cousins has not been good this year. Actually, I think it's one of his worst seasons, probably his worst season in Minnesota. He's averaging like 10.4 yards per completion despite having Jefferson. Despite having great left tackle play, it's not fully come together. So the Vikings need to kind of. Their record is great, but they need to kind of shore some things up to make a deep playoff run. They're not, to me, they're not there yet based on what I've seen. So
yeah, I mean, I've said this for weeks that everything that I grade, like you just mentioned, their offense, their defense, especially everything comes in at average to slightly below average. You just mentioned everything's like 20th and 22nd, and they have a bunch of 1-score wins, got a bunch of turnover luck. Last week you get a kick return. Busted coverage against the Lions, and they're playing in the NFC too. And now the Jets get a massive upgrade at quarterback because they have a quarterback who can complete passes in the flats. That's basically what the Jets needed. Just make the first read throws. Zach Wilson was incapable of doing that, and this is a defense that you can attack that way all day. So yeah, give me the Jets. Where you go next?
For my second pick, the 4th overall of the Week 13 Sunday 6-pack presented by FanDuel, let's go with the Miami Dolphins plus 3.5 at the San Francisco 49ers. And I know everybody's kind of freaked out about this game because of the Dolphins tackle injuries, which obviously not ideal. But you look at this Dolphin team and what do they do well? Tua gets the ball out extremely quick. One of the quickest quarterbacks, time to throw. The top graded quarterback when getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds. The top graded quarterback under pressure. The second best graded quarterback when there is no pressure. He's been balling no matter what, but his numbers when he has to get the ball out quick are on a different level than any other quarterback in the league. Whatever metric you want to look at, yards per attempt, passer rating, PFF grade, whatever you want to look at, on a different level. So I actually think the Dolphins offense will still be able to function here. Now, you look at, on defense, the Dolphins, they're up to 17th in DVOA. So, compared to what they were at one point in the year, it's gotten a little better, but they're great stopping the run. They're great stopping traditional run games. Sometimes quarterback runs gives them some problems, but when you talk about a team that's going to line up and try to run the ball, power, zone, whatever, the Dolphins can stop it. They're number 4 in the league on defense in early down rush success rate allowed. We've seen them pretty much shut out the Vikings run game. I think Dalvin Cook got one long run late in the game. The Texans, Damian Pierce did absolutely nothing. Like, this team shuts down run game. So I think it's going to make San Francisco go a little bit out of their element, maybe even turn it into a passing type of game. And I think the Dolphins can win this one. I think the Dolphins can be efficient here with Tyreek, with Jalen Waddle. There's obviously familiarity on both sides. So always like the dog in that spot, especially when I'm getting more than a field goal. And I've been saying it. I think this Dolphin team is going to surprise some people. I mean, you look at San Francisco and they've been balling as we expected. A lot of talent on that team, obviously. But, you look at when they faced, an offense the last great offense they faced really was because the Chargers were kind of banged up. The Cardinals were banged up. Rams are banged up. You got to go back to the Chiefs, and they completely just mollywopped them. And that Falcons offense that was humming, granted, the Niners were able to banged up for that one, but Falcons were able to put 28 on them. They just haven't faced many good offense. I mean, the Broncos, the Seahawks, the Bears, Rams twice. Even Falcons aren't great. Banged up Chargers, banged up Cardinals, and banged up Saints. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a shock to the system for San Francisco. I don't think they're going to be quite as dominant on defense as they've looked to date. Kind of like the Patriots when they just played all these shitty offenses, and then they come out and it turns into kind of a shootout last week against Minnesota. I think it's going to be the same type of game. Tua is 9-4 in his career as a dog against the spread. Give me some Tua, give me some Dolphins here, plus 3.5 against the Niners.
I'm going to disagree. I don't disagree taking over 3 against Shanahan, who's like always he's horrible as a favorite, especially at home because he's so conservative. Like he'll if they're up, if it's tied and it's like first and goal at the 1 with like a minute to go, he'll just take 3 knees and then kick a field goal, and he won't go for it on 4th and 1 at like the 12. Like he doesn't like to build margin at home, which is why they're awful as a team. He gets too conservative at times. So I don't hate you for that, but I've been waiting for a time to fade the Dolphins. I mean, look, Tua's been great. He's like on pace to set the record, the passer rater record on 3rd downs, which it's not as sustainable as early down success, but look, his last 4 wins have come against the Texans, Browns, Bears, and Lions. So like he's playing the poverty of poverty defenses in the NFL. And then earlier this year, right, like he was bad against Buffalo. They got a miracle win, got outgained by about 300. He was not great against New England. And then against the Ravens, they're down like 50, and then the Ravens go into prevent of a bunch of coverage busts. So like,
I mean, he was great in that game. Like you can't say he wasn't great.
Well, late, but they were down.
That's all you need. Like
they were down 28 in that game.
I'm not expecting the Niners to put up 40 points.
But most of it's I mean, like everything has happened in the last 4 weeks against the. And it's not like the Ravens have been great at stopping teams late. Just look at last week. They blow leads every week. But yeah, the Texans, Browns, Bears, and Lions, I think that it's a little inflated. And San Fran, San Fran has had the easiest schedule in the NFL to date. But their early down defense, which is very sustainable, is the best in the NFL by a wide margin if you look at adjusted EPA per play. And they should get Eric Armstead back this week. He's on the practice field, looked spry, which is huge for their run D. Their defense became elite last year when they moved him into the middle. And look, the Dolphins defense, like I just mentioned the teams that they've been playing lately. And look, the Bears put up 30 plus, the Lions put up 30 plus, and they shut down the Texans. Great job. He shut down Kyle Allen. And they did a good job against the Browns. I was impressed in that effort. But the Dolphins like to blitz, and they don't get pressure. And that's not great for Jimmy G. And I'm not talking about just this year because they have played a pretty soft schedule. But if you look historically at Jimmy G's stats, he really struggles under non-blitz pressure. So whenever you blitz him, like his numbers are always pretty good because he just has like one, like I know, all right, I'm seeing the blitz. I know I'm going to go here. I know I'm going to check it down, or I know I'm going to go to my tight end, or I know I'm going to go to Debo and I'm going to dump it off. It's all short passing. But if you are playing coverage, not blitzing, and then you have ends that can get pressure on him, he will make mistakes. He will have the head scratching Jimmy throw. Remember the pick last week that I think got overturned for some penalty where the Saints ended up fumbling and they got it back. Something crazy happened. I know he got bailed out. But that's the Dolphins aren't that. They like the blitz, and they don't get natural pressure without blitzing. Chubb helps that aspect a little bit, but overall in general, and Miami really struggles to guard running backs. Miami really struggles to defend running backs, the slot, tight ends, and short passes. They're 29th DVOA defending short passes, which is where the 49ers like to live. Meanwhile, student versus pupil here, I tend to favor teacher versus pupil here. I tend to favor the teacher in the first matchup, but the 49ers defense is elite defending short passes. They're number 2. So, yeah, it's a really interesting matchup. I don't hate you for taking over 3. I wanted San Fran -3. Didn't get it. I'm not laying 3.5, but I will say that I did money line the Niners with the Ravens, who should win. But
I don't trust the Niners. But I mean, this is that kind of
I don't
game
trust the Niners to win with margin.
I mean, listen, and all I need to do is keep it within a field goal. And I think the Dolphins have a very good shot of winning this game because if the Niners, okay, everything they do is short passes. There's just naturally like not as much margin for error. Jimmy G's banged up, by the way. They're being coy about exactly how hurt he is, but he's not 100%. Something's up with his knee. Christian McCaffrey's not healthy right now. They just lost Elijah Mitchell, who is running better than McCaffrey. I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for the Niners, and they haven't faced like. How do you beat a defense that's talented and elite with guys like Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Tua? Like that, I think it's a great matchup for Miami.
Yeah, we'll learn a lot about both teams because of who they've played recently.
Yeah,
and I'm really excited to watch this one. I'm thoroughly disappointed in. You also have like the storylines of like McDonald versus Shanahan, McDaniel versus Shanahan, and these are 2 like teams that are in the mix, and then we're gonna have to fucking watch the Colts again on Sunday night. Like, how did this game not get flexed? It's like,
yeah, man,
brutal.
Yeah, we get the same. We're getting it's weird. We're getting
the same fucking teams. I gotta watch Matt Ryan on 5 days rest after he got roasted by the Steelers pass rush. Oh, great. Go, let's send him on the road to face Michael Parsons.
I mean, Jeff Saturday might have to go. He might have to dust off Nick Foles for this one.
And then we get the Rams next Thursday. God, they got to do a better job of flexing these games.
Yeah.
Monday we get to watch the ghost of Tom Brady versus Dalton. This is when they're supposed to be flexing these games. Like, there was like Bengals Chiefs. I know the networks want to keep some of them, but there's Bills Dolphins. I hope gets flexed in a couple weeks. I'm supposed to go to the Ravens Browns game in what is that, week 15. Oh, they moved it to Sunday. What games did they put on that Saturday?
Is that like the week before Christmas?
Yeah. Well, maybe they haven't decided. Yeah, they haven't decided yet. Actually, they're going to decide on Monday. This Monday, that's the last. They're going to pick 3 games for Saturday, but they got to flex some because as of right now, the night games are in week 15. Are Patriots Raiders? We don't need to see that. I mean,
McDaniel versus Belichick. That's somewhat interesting, I will say. McDaniel versus
but there's and then Rams Packers is the Monday night game.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we got to flex some of that. But you got Titans, Chargers, Bengals, Bucks. What else? Giants, Washington, just because of the markets, and those teams will be in the playoff mix. And then Dolphins, Bills. There's Ravens, Browns.
We got to keep with tradition. I think it was last year, maybe the year before. You went to the Ravens Browns game, and we were on opposite sides. And I think Lamar got hurt, or I covered it like on the luckiest something or other. And it was like the only time you had lost a Ravens bet in the last 3 years. So you got to keep with tradition.
Oh, I'll be going. I go every year. I'll be up there in Cleveland. All right. For my third pick of the Week 13 NFL Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with it's hard. I can't even say it with a straight face. The Los Angeles Rams plus 7.5 against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm assuming there's no Donald, there's no Stafford. I'm assuming they're just getting shut down for the year. Yeah, there's no Kupp, there's no Allen Robinson. The offensive line is a mess. Bryce Perkins is starting. I don't even know who's starting. I'm assuming it's Bryce Perkins again to get his second start. I don't care. I cannot get anywhere close to this number. These are still professional players playing. They're not going to quit. And I said earlier this year, I said the the Rams without Donald and Cup, when they looked like they were both hurt, I said they're basically like the and Stafford are basically like the Texans, which is fair. Which is fair. They're a little
They
more
wish they had Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, they're
Kyron
a little
Williams
more
looking good, to be fair.
Yeah, Kyron Williams, I like Kyron Williams, but they're a little more they're better coached than the Texans. And this is a divisional game, and I know they'll show up. Like, it's guys playing for their jobs and contracts. They're not just going to quit. And by the way, there's no tanking with the Rams. They're going to tank for the 200th pick. Their pick goes to the Lions, I think, in the first round. They don't have a first round pick for the next 2 decades. There's no tanking. People are like, the Rams are tanking. Tanking for what? The 78th pick? They don't have any. They don't have any. I think their picks go to the Lions. They go to somebody.
Yeah, the Lions.
And yeah, so they're still going to show up. It's like the Texans. So you're telling me the Browns with Deshaun Watson back, who are better than the Seahawks, are only 7-point favorites at Houston, a literal corpse that has no coach, and they're not as big of a favorite as Seattle at the Rams. I don't care who's playing quarterback. This is a crazy overreaction to all the injuries. And how many times do we see wounded teams in spots like this once the lines get way too inflated? Like, I saw this line earlier this week. It was like 3.5, 4.5. I was like, eh. And then it jumped up, and then the Donald news, and then it flew through 7. I said, you got to be kidding me. And I took 8, would take this down to 7, but definitely taking it at 7.5. Home dogs, by the way, for what it's worth this year, catching 7 or more, 7-0 against the spread this year. Talked about the reduced scoring environment, harder to build margin. The one thing that I think the Rams will still do, losing Donald obviously really hurts. He's probably worth about 1.5 points, which is crazy for a non-quarterback. It's as high as you'll ever get for a defender. So he's definitely worth a lot to the spread, and he's going to not get as much pressure. But the Rams still schematically, they'll be still okay against the run. And that's the whole key against Seattle. If you can just slow down their run, it really slows down their play action game and Gino. And, this is still I think a defense that'll have pride. And look, it's Perkins' second start. Could run around some behind that awful offensive line, but Seattle's not going to get a ton of pressure. And we've seen Seattle's defense, like last week, they gave up 600 yards. That's like a Big 12 game. They have 600 yards to the Raiders. So I think that we were crowning the Seattle defense a little too soon. So, yeah, I think that the Rams could find a way to put up some points here, but this is purely a numbers play over a key of 7 in a divisional game. These guys still have some pride. I cannot get to anywhere close to Seattle minus 7.5 on the road here at the Rams. I don't care. Once again, if you're playing quarterback, the only way that I will buy out of this bet, the only way that I will buy out of my Rams +8 position is if tomorrow the Jets trade Zach Wilson to the Rams and he starts for them. That's it.
Not even Cooper Rush. What about if the Cowboys trade Cooper Rush?
Don't care. I'll back Cooper. As long as the Rams don't start Zach Wilson, I like this.
Yeah, I thought about this one too, and then it was gonna take me like 3 hours to figure out exactly why I wanted to bet the Rams. But I agree. It's just like 7.5 points for the Seahawks against anyone on the road. It's just
divisional game, like this. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy line. I'll happily put the clown makeup on for you and take the side so you don't have to make the case. But basically, it comes down to just the line is too high, and it's hard to build margin in the NFL this year. This is the low total game. I think it's going to be lower scoring. And how many times have we seen backups? People step up. You're going to have some defensive linemen that step up here. Schematically, the Rams will still be okay against the run. And I think that they'll be able to move the ball some. Everyone can against Seattle. So, yeah, give me the Rams here. Pride game.
Guess who covered the plus 16.5 last week in his first start? Bryce Perkins. That line got away. And, of course, the Chiefs keep screwing up in the red zone, and Rams find a way to cover. I mean, it is a corpse, but these are the types of games, when you get deep into betting and you're betting at this point in the season, these are the type of games that they're not going to be comfortable. They're not going to look or feel like the right play is going to be like, why am I even doing this? But you'll see these games cover, like you'll see the dog cover in these spots more often than not. Like I
Yeah,
would say
there's
it's
and
probably
I think that
58-42 cover rate for the dog in this spot.
yeah, and it's worth noting that there are teams that in the NFL, like, oh, this team has quit. Like that can happen. A locker room could go sour, and it is a team sport more so than like baseball, right? Where like, or even basketball. I mean, you could lose some team chemistry, but there's individual performances. But like in football, you need like everyone working together. You got to prep right. So you can have teams that just quit, but these are professional athletes. Like they're playing for their jobs, their contracts. The coaches are playing for, their jobs and contracts. And the only time that I think that really comes into play is like the last week or last couple of weeks. Like you can have teams that every once in a while in the NFL, this obviously happens in the NBA, that knowingly tank, right? Like Sean Payton this week came out and he said, Lovie Smith actually, back in 2014, knowingly tagged to get Jameis Winston. And he pulled like every starter in the second half, and they just said at late in the season, they said, we're going to lose this game. So like they just were taking out their starters one by one to make sure that they lost the game. So that could happen like the last couple of weeks if it's like for the number one draft pick. But as I mentioned, the Rams have no incentive to tank. Zero. They don't have a first round draft. It's not like they're like, hey, let's get our quarterback. They can't. Anyway, where are you going for your final pick?
For my third and final pick and the sixth overall of the week 13 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Detroit Lions -1 at FanDuel against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shop around for this line. You may be able to get it with the Lions as a dog. I did. This line got hit by some big money and it flipped to the Jaguars, but I'm going to sell on the Jaguars hype right now. Love the matchup for the Lions here. So what does Detroit do? Detroit loves to blitz, for better or worse. Aaron Glenn will blitz. And Trevor Lawrence is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league against the blitz. 26th in PFF grade, 30th in yards per attempt when the defense sends extra rushers. And that's kind of translated to something I've talked about earlier in the year, which is also some struggles versus man coverage. And the two go hand in hand, but the Jaguars are one of the worst teams in the league, 6.9 yards per targeted pass against man coverage compared to 7.9 against zone. They're 26th against man, 18th against zone. And generally, you're supposed to average more yards against man coverage and blitzes and things like that because you have one-on-ones. So Lawrence really hasn't been able to figure it out. It's caused him a lot of trouble, and that's why he can look so inconsistent. One week he looks great, the next week he doesn't. And I keep saying this. The teams keep playing the wrong defense against this Jags team because I went back and looked at the Baltimore Ravens and what they did. And of course, they pretty much stayed in zone coverage throughout the game. And it's just not, the Jaguars, they can make plays against that. Trevor Lawrence, he kind of picks that apart. And Detroit will not do that. They'll muck up the game, sending pressure. So I think Detroit matches up well. On defense, Okudah practiced Wednesday, which is good because, Zay Jones coming on strong to give them another threat along with Christian Kirk. And so the Lions getting healthier here. And they've been playing better on defense, since kind of the midway point in the season. They fired, I think it was their defensive backs coach. They made some schematic adjustments. They got some, Herbert Joseph in there. They got Jerry Jacobs in there. So
Pascal's, some of their younger guys are,
Hutchinson's really playing well.
Better.
So it's not the same defense that, I think it was maybe the first month of the year we were saying, oh, this is historically bad defense. It's just a bad defense. A defense that like we saw it on Thanksgiving. They can hang with the Bills enough for their offense, which, by the way, is finally getting healthy, to put up enough points. Well, now, in this game, I need them to win, but they're playing the Jaguars, who, if you need to win, because the Lions have scored a lot of points at home. They're still only 2-4, so they haven't won many games at home. But this Jaguars team is just Jekyll and Hyde. And that's why I love selling high on them. And you were right on it. Last week was the time to be on them. But when you look at this team, that the same team that beat the Ravens, needed a comeback, by the way. This is the same team that went down, what was it, 20 to nothing to the Raiders. Same team that lost to the Broncos in London, lost to the Giants, lost to the Colts, lost to the Texans at home. So that's what the Jaguars have been doing pretty much before that win against the Ravens. So this team is up and down. A lot of it comes down to how the coverages are played against them. And you look at this Detroit team, when they're at home, you got to love their offense. 30.5 points per game at home compared to 18.5 points per game on the road. So a 12-point per game difference, about 50 more total yards, 384 average at home, 338 on the road. And their point differential at home is positive. It's +1, so it's still positive. On the road, they're losing on average by a touchdown, -7.3. So very drastic home road splits for Detroit. And they have Chark back. Reynolds is back. They eased him in last week. Still, so they have their top 3 receivers. I don't think Jameson Williams is going to play this week, but you still have your top 4 receivers. Swift is healthy. He's off the injury report. He's probably not going to be a feature back, but they're working in all their backs well. Their offensive line's getting guys back practicing on Wednesday. So Detroit should be full go on both sides of the ball here. And this is another one where I think the perception, again, is that the Jaguars are the much better team here. And they were favored at one point on the road. Probably at some books they still are. I just don't see it. Detroit, 16th in overall DVOA, Jacksonville 18th. Detroit 12th in offensive DVOA, Jacksonville 14th. Detroit 24 on defense, Jaguars 26. And they're pretty much equal in special teams. So Detroit's better overall. Detroit's better on offense. Detroit's better on defense. Detroit's at home. Detroit plays a style of defense that the Jaguars have struggled against. So give me them Lions -1 at home against the Jags.
I don't disagree with you. I don't agree with you. You make some good points. I don't really have a strong feel here. It feels to me it's like a game that it's like who's going to have the ball last. But from a spot perspective, Jags and Trevor Lawrence haven't been the same team on the road. Lions extra rest here. Jags coming off that big emotional win. Do they carry some of that momentum over? Do they come out a little flat here against the Lions? I don't know, but I think the spot overall in general does favor Detroit, and I do think that Goff is playing really well, and especially indoors at home with all of his weapons healthy in that offensive line, they should be able to move the ball at will. And it seems like you have a conviction that Lawrence is going to have some struggles, at least at times, which if that's the case, then the Lions will get the start at home.
All right. So we got some Perkins, we got some Mike White, we got some Mahomes.
I got Mahomes, Mike White, and Perkins.
That's quite the spectrum there. But we covered with a combo of Darnold and Mike White last week. So we could do this.
Yeah, none of us had to give each other shit this week with Darnold.
Yeah. I mean, talk about conviction.
Did you see Darnold roll into the end zone? He rolled in for a touchdown?
Oh, yeah. Everyone keeps asking me if I saw that game. Of course I saw that game. I was probably paying more attention to that game than any other game because I felt like I was on an island. Like, the Panthers are just going to, ball out in this game. Denver is helpless, hapless, whatever you want to call it. And anyone but Mayfield. It's kind of like your Zach Wilson. I agree. Zach Wilson, don't love betting on him either, but anyone but Mayfield for the Panthers, anyone but Wentz for the Commanders. It's just how we got to get down here. But you got KC -2.5 against Cincy, the Rams +7.5 at home against Seattle, and the Jets +3 at Minnesota. I got Tennessee +5.5 at Philly, Miami +3.5 at San Fran, and the Lions -1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars.